Good evening. 7:03, good evening. I hereby call to order this Board of Education regular meeting for the Ridgefield Board of Education for Tuesday, September 27th. Can all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And to start off this evening, we have an RPS showcase.
So tonight I bring you one of our first showcases from Scotts Ridge Middle School. Hey, tonight I bring you one of our first showcases from Scotts Ridge Middle School. Our showcases give the board and the public a peek into the work, and in this case specifically, work in the visual arts that is currently taking place in our classrooms. In addition, this is another way to celebrate our student artists. Our goal, however, is not to have me presenting this. Our goal is to have students come in once a month, artists come in, have easels up in front of you and have them talk through their work. But for today, because we're not quite ready yet, I'm going to be that person. So I will project their pieces, describe the work through the words of their instructor, Tressa Ringkamp, at Scotts Ridge Middle School, as I mentioned, and we will have one piece from each grade. So we will start with looking at a 6th grade piece. So this is our 6th grade student, Liliana E., who is working on a study for negative and positive space. And this is where they're recognizing negative and positive space and how it helps students draw more accurately and arrange interesting compositions. So according to the instructor, students were asked to create a contour drawing, which is the outline of at least 3 objects, overlap the objects, and notice the negative spaces being created. As they added objects, the study became more complex, as you can see. Students completed the drawings by filling the negative space with black Sharpie, emphasizing the importance of negative space. The objective of this lesson and this study is to encourage students to recognize that negative space is equally important to the positive space. Hopefully, students can transfer this concept into future work. So thank you, Lily, for sharing that with us. So then we move on to 7th grade. Next slide. And this artist, Olivia H., is working on linear perspective. This is a work in progress. And in this project, students are designing an imaginary dream room by using the rules of perspective. By following a simple set of guidelines, students can practice how to draw in perspective and create the illusion of depth. So according to Tressa, students were instructed to create 3 thumbnail sketches of their dream room. The room should include a door, a window, artwork on the wall, and 3 to 5 pieces of furniture. In class, they practice using the rules of perspective to create their room. Linear perspective is an important tool to understand and apply when attempting to create the illusion of space, which I definitely see here. Objects get smaller as they go back in space. First developed and applied by Renaissance artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. So thank you, Olivia. On to 8th grade. So Jamie C, shares art with us. This is part of the composition drawing for printmaking project. This is a work in progress. And in this project, students are creating images by drawing a subject from 4 different angles. They will transfer this image into linoleum blocks. I've actually seen them do this in the classroom. It's really, really amazing. And create a series of prints varying the colors and compositions. The composition drawing is a new project this year. The objective is to encourage students to look at a subject in a new way. By viewing and rendering objects from multiple perspectives, they can create unique images. The students will then transfer this image onto a block and ultimately into an art print. Again, viewing the subject in a new way by changing the materials used. For this project, students selected objects from the Nature Lab, which is located right next to the art room at CERMS. And in that nature room lives lots of science stuff with beautiful textures. So thank you to the Scottsridge students and their instructor, Teresa Ringkamp, for sharing some of their work with us tonight.
Thank you for that. Next up is public comment. Do we have anybody signed up for our first session?
No one signed up yet this evening. Would anyone like to make a public comment at this time?
There will be another opportunity at the end of the night as well. Starting with my report, just a few items. First off, last week, our fiscal year 2022 end of year budget was shared with the Board of Finance. Sean, you were there. Jill, I believe that it was very well received and that good job was done by all. So thank you all for that.
It was well received. Some of the changes that Jill did to the formatting made it a lot easier for the Board of Finance to understand where we're at.
Right.
So big round of applause for Jill on that.
Good job. Then the next day, on Wednesday of last week, the town vote did pass two items for us. The monies required to finish our two security projects, the bollards and the vestibules. So both of those passed as well. And then one more item. On September 14th, we lost an educator here in Ridgefield. Jennifer Mason had been a teacher in RPS for 32 years. She worked at Veterans Park, Ridgeberry, and most recently at Farmingville. I'd like to take this moment to ask the Board of Education to observe a moment of silence in honor of Mrs. Mason. Thank you. That's all for me. Dr. De Silva is on for the superintendent's report. I'll turn it
Good
over.
evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for recognizing Mrs. Mason. We did attend a celebration of life for her this past weekend, and truly the work that she's done with children, both in and out of our community, is nothing short of amazing. And everyone that has had the benefit of being touched by her will remember her always. Transitioning, as you mentioned, Jonathan, we had a Board of Finance meeting last Tuesday, and on Wednesday we had the Board of Selectmen meeting that went to the town vote on the security project. So we were glad that those were seen through, and a big thanks to Joe and Jill. Jill for Tuesday night, Joe for Wednesday night, on being present and pushing those very, very important projects along the way. It was great to see the artwork of our middle school students. I was wondering why my hot air balloon that I created with Miss Zier this week wasn't up there, Miss Gillette, but I guess maybe it'll show up for next time. We are entering our 5th week of school. Our schools continue to be buzzed with activities, learning events, and celebrations. The majority of our schools have completed or will have completed open houses by the end of this week. Amy, actually, our board member, is at Ridgeberry. Not exactly sure how that conflict happened, but we do apologize. We try to be really thoughtful about when our district meetings are and ensure that there isn't a conflict. But clearly, for some reason, we couldn't avoid this one. So our apologies. But parents have had the opportunity to see classrooms, meet teachers, and learn about all the exciting things that are happening in our curriculum and the experiences that our students are having and will engage in across the year. This morning, I attended the RHS National Honor Society induction. We had over 139 students that were welcomed. So a big congratulations to those students. And a shout out, because I do see Miss Dewing, who I did have the opportunity to see her daughter walk across the stage as well. So congratulations to Kayla and Miss Dewing. In student news, we had a senior, I'm sure that you did hear about it, Ryan, Williams, who is one of 369 students in the world to have received a perfect score on the computer science advanced placement exam that he took this past spring. And of course, a shout out to Dr. Stephen Anton, who guided him through that process. So a big congratulations to Ryan. CERMS did announce their top summer reader, sixth grader, Anna Yang. So big congratulations to Anna. She read dozens and dozens of books over the summer, and I think they celebrated her with some type of special prize. I imagine it was something fun. And again, we look forward to continuing the school year with such a positive energy. So that's it for me, Jonathan.
Thank you, Dr. De Silva. Committee chairs, I know we had policy.
So the policy committee met on Monday, September 19th. We have 7 policies coming forward tonight as a recommendation for first read. It was a great first meeting, good questions, and I encourage all interested to check out our meeting posted online and to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee or liaison reports? Sean.
I have a great one tonight. The Prevention Council just today announced that in conjunction with Planet Pizza, they're sponsoring pizza nights for high school students. So every first Friday of every month, from 7 to 10, you can get a slice and a fountain drink for free. You have to show your high school ID and sign in on the Prevention Council clipboard at Planet Pizza.
First Fridays.
First Friday of every month, 7 to 10, first 50 students.
Thank you.
Pretty exciting. Huh?
That is exciting. Only 50 students.
Correct.
Okay. So 7 to 8. Any other liaison reports for this evening? No, okay. Okay, let's move on to the first discussion item of the night, which oddly enough does involve rugby.
Okay, good evening again, everyone. I think Mr. Street is here, and he's very excited to provide an update around rugby that is becoming a permanent sport, I believe.
Yes, thanks, Dr. De Silva. I believe all the board members have the memo in front of you. I'd just start by saying it's great to be back in the same room with everybody, and welcome to the new members that I haven't met before. We are off to a great start in terms of the athletic program at the high school this year. We're hard to believe we're almost at the middle of the fall season already, but things have gone really well up to this point. Our number of participants is back to pre-COVID numbers, which is great to see. We're upwards of 550 student athletes this fall, so over a third of the school is participating, which is just great. But tonight I'm here to talk to you about a spring sport. And so really just closing the loop on the process. Those of you who may recall, as we were working through the budget process this past year for this current year that we're in, included rugby, the transition from club sport to varsity sport status. So these aren't my bodyguards behind me. These are some members of our program that wanted to come along and sort of commemorate the evening along with our coach, Pete McLean. But just wanted to read for the record the memo that you all have just as sort of why we're here and where we've come. So with the inclusion of rugby in the 22-23 athletics budget, the time has come to formally transition the RHS rugby program from club sport to varsity status. The RHS Rugby Club has been in existence for many years, initially through the Boys and Girls Club, and then beginning in 2016 as a spring offering through the RHS Athletics Department following the RHS Club Sport Guidelines. This program was the first to be granted club sport status by the Board of Education. Since 2016, the program has continued to meet all stipulations as outlined in the club sport process. Additionally, the program has continued to grow and develop since its inception. It has had positive annual reviews, given hundreds of RHS students the opportunity to participate in a team sport, and opened doors for many to pursue rugby at the collegiate level. So again, just wanted to come in before you here tonight to close the loop. It is the first time that we've had a club sport transition over to varsity status. And so certainly felt it was worth taking a moment to recognize that, and thank you all for your support. If it's okay, I'd like to invite our coach up to say a few words. He's been with the program since its inception. Coach McLean.
Good evening. I'd just like to thank Dane for all the work he's done on this, and for the Board of Ed for including us in our athletic program. And then I'd also like to thank my parents and mostly my athletes. These guys have worked tirelessly over the last 11 years to build this program from a fledgling program where there was a couple kids had come to me and said, hey, what would you think about starting a rugby program? And I told them if we can get 15 kids, we'll give it a shot. We were down at the Boys and Girls Club. We were playing and practicing in fields behind softball diamonds and kids' yards. And now we are one of the powerhouse programs in the state of Connecticut. So this has been a fantastic opportunity for a lot of our players. A lot of our guys, so many of our guys have gone on to play at the collegiate level, representing universities, Clemson University, Ohio State, Marist, Cornell, University of Massachusetts, Fairfield, Norwich, Northeastern, UConn, just to name a few. And as we move forward, we continue to grow the program. Last year, I think we had about 60 athletes. We anticipate even more than that this year. And our next goal is to participate in the national tournament and develop a thriving women's program at RHS. So that's on the agenda for us. And I just want to say thank you guys very much for everything you've done. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations to the rugby program for having become a varsity sport at this point. Congratulations.
I finally got it out.
Now they have to wait until the end. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up, we have the superintendent's 2022-23 district priorities we saw 2 weeks ago. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education accept the 2022-23 district priorities presented by our superintendent, Dr. De Silva, on September 27th, 2022.
Thank you, Rachel. Do I have a second? Sean? Any questions or comments about the goals? I know we went, or the priorities, we went through these 2 weeks ago. We had opportunities, questions then. Anything else come up since? No, I think they're comprehensive, and I look forward to following the progress against these priorities throughout the course of the year. All those in favor, please raise your hands. 6, unanimous. Thank you all. Motion passes.
Jonathan, I think Tom as well. Yep, Tom had his hand up. 7.
I see you, Tom. 7. My apologies. Okay, moving right on, technology update.
Hello. I will be as quick as I can here. As promised in my last appearance here at the board, it's the technology update. I also just want everyone to kind of bear with us. We're having some other technical changes today. So if today's board meeting on people watching on YouTube, maybe it'll sound a little funky at times. It's just because we're trying on some new Zoom plugins. So hopefully all this will be ironed out in the coming board meetings. All right, so this is the 2022 September Technology Department upgrade. Right here is my term last year was called Building Capacity in my budget presentation. And I'm just going to break it down to the beginning of the school year, what we've been doing in technology and how technology has been integrating with everything in the district. So for those of you who are new to the board, or at least this part of the year, we are doing a different type of one-to-one program here in Ridgefield. After meeting with the PTA and many community members, we want to reduce screen time for children K through 3, but we don't want to keep them away from technology. So we instituted a program called the Classroom Chromebooks, where there's 1 Chromebook per child in the classroom. So every child does have access to the Google Apps, Google Classroom, all of the online services. And of course, sadly, I hope we never, ever have to do it ever again. But if there is a time where students need to take devices home to do distance learning, we have enough devices in the district for everyone. And that's K through 3. 4th grade is the first grade that you get a actual hand device to you that you are allowed to bring home. and it's yours. You keep that for 2 years and then you hand it in at the end of your 5th grade year. In 6th grade, you get a brand new device. You hold on to that one for 3 years until you exit middle school and enter high school. And in high school, you either get a brand new Chromebook your freshman year, or throughout that entire 4-year stay, you have the option to do BYOD, which is bring your own device, which is great because we have so many different learning levels at the high school, so many different needs, and it also does save the district a decent amount of money when we know that a large group of, especially our juniors and senior high school students, they just don't want a district Chromebook anymore. They're usually using some sort of really nice high-end Windows machine or a MacBook for various reasons. So we have those options for students. If they don't have a device, they can use one of our devices. So want to say that this year it went off wonderfully. This is the first year ever that the Ridgefield Technology Department has been able to fully fund itself with with all of our devices, both with digital services and physical hardware. That has never happened before in the history that I've been able to look at through my predecessors. There's always needed to be some sort of transfer, some sort of federal grant, some sort of capital grant, something that had to happen. This is the first year that and thank you to the board for supporting the budget, where we are able to be self-sufficient and not having to worry if we can pay for something. This is the proposed amount last year for the, as I like to call it, the mega line. This is our expanded hardware line to support one-to-one and all of the technology upgrade initiatives. I also had this funny little slide during the beginning of, let's just say, a lot of the craziness with the market with inflation, and it's really hard to source devices, let alone pay a fair price for these devices. I also want to say great news. Because we were able to lock in our budget, that means I'm able to bid earlier to get us lower prices. So the nice thing is when we order Chromebooks now or any large volume device, I can say, yes, we have the money. We're not waiting for a federal grant. We're not waiting for a capital improvement. We could just order it. We could lock in those lower prices earlier, thus meaning hopefully mitigating some of us eating into that blue part of the line. And a little bit of this conversation is I'm just letting people know that we've done very good with this line this year, but we are cutting into that blue line a lot more just because of inflation. Everything that cost $500 now costs $612. And when you add that up across an entire district of just items you're buying, you're eating into things. But that, because we have that cushion, a lot of the projects that I was going to use to upgrade things at the high school can wait a little bit, but we're still doing a lot of major upgrades in the district as things move forward. So on to the second part of the presentation of establishing capacity is big updates. So the biggest one, and a big thank you to Jill for helping us out with a lot of the financials of this, is we have been able to kind of throw out the 3-year rollout plan for the ViewSonics, and we were able to do it all in this year, especially when we were able to lock in those low prices. And that's the huge thing. We were able to lock in these prices to the point where out of our suppliers are saying, oh boy, I wish you didn't lock it in that early, because they're basically giving a lot of this stuff away to us. Not that I'm saying it's cheap, but we're all seeing how hard it is to get some of these items. Right off the bat, the old tech we've replaced were in some cases close to 15-year-old smart boards, but the bare share of them were 11 to 13-year-old smart boards. We replaced them with these new ViewSonic televisions. And at the high school right now, it's brand new desktop computers, and we're going to be proliferating those desktop computers over the next 2 years at the middle and elementary level. Fun little energy fact, I brought this up at the last meeting. I was a little under the weather last week, so I had some free time and I looked at the wattage usage of all of the technology that we buy, because those are the kind of the fun things I do, right? So like a lot of these rooms, we had those big projectors, and those things would about 300 to 500 watts, depending on the model. The smartboard panel, the old computer, the old monitor. When you add that up, we're looking at between 600 and 800 watts. And I just did an average there of 643. With the new setups, the ViewSonic TV, the new computer, the new monitor, which are faster, better, brighter, everything uses less than half the electricity. Now, am I saying that Joe Moritz is going to come in here and be like, we're saved with our electric bill? No, but it does mean that when we are buying these large groupings of technology, energy usage is something we do consider. We want to make sure that if I am spending a lot of money, it's not going to end up spending even more money in the long run. So it is something we do like to consider. Some of the big upgrades that are happening is, if you look up there, we have the brand new Mac Lab for art and media that has just been kind of reinvigorated. We put these brand new, I like to call them orange Macs, but Apple said that they were orange, but they were very gold in color, but doesn't matter. It's Richfield orange to us. This lab is going to be great for something I'm going to talk about in a little bit. If you've also walked around the high school recently, you've noticed that we've replaced all of the old signage with brand new signage TVs, a brand new signage system. Soon we'll be able to zone the high school. So someone from the cafeteria department can actually put a menu up, while someone in the history department can put something on the history TV. But if Dr. Greenwood wants to put an announcement and all the TVs instantly, boom, he can do it. Very easy interactive devices. And this will go to all the schools throughout the year. So we're starting it at the high school. We're doing some preliminary testing. It looks like it's running great. So then we're going to put these at all the schools. So new signage software at all the schools. And that's just the beginning of all the cool projects that we're going to be doing at the high school and other schools throughout the year. But this next part is a little different, and it's more of the Venn diagram of technology covers everything. And because the board and the town and the community supported technology so much this past year, I want to say how much that has permeated to everything in the district. It's the, tides lift all boats, and I really think it did. So first off, we love working with the new business department with Jill and her brand new amazing crew. Got a great photo of all of them there. We worked together with them in coming up with the new Amazon buying portal. A really excited thing is we got a brand new point of sale service system at the high school. So now the high school kids and their store down the road, or very soon, could be using Apple Pay and Android Pay. And the kids, they're not carrying money anymore. So this is a great way and then they get to track all the metrics in the business course, which is really, really cool. We have been working very hard to automate Edgelog and a lot of the transportation stuff with Billy, and it's been a great experience. But thank you again, because now we have the tools, the time, and the resources to help these departments out. We've been working really closely with facilities. As you know, this summer, we took a huge focus on security. I'll be the first to say that we did let two major projects slow down because we wanted to focus so much on security. One is the network capital upgrade, which we have begun back up on. And the same is the same big project we slowed down a little bit was our data warehousing, just because we figured it can wait. Security was more important. So we worked with facilities and going around improving all the camera systems, updating the backend servers, working with Joe has been doing the amazing task of figuring out this huge new walkie-talkie deployment in the whole district. I've been working with his second in command, Brett, in digitizing our key services. So it's easy for us to keep track of who has keys, where they're going, and how they're stored. And I've been working closely with curriculum sped and all building administration. We're really excited. We started this morning actually doing some really cool implementation of the new data warehouse software. So we're really excited to show that in the coming months. We're really excited to be working with the high school on flex time. And we've been really working hard with special services. The state is demanding all new reports. As we know, the state can be very demanding, especially when it comes to special services. So we're working very closely with Dr. Hanaway and Dr. Shoa in doing and helping get these reports to the state as they want them. And basically, we're also working with leadership in standardizing these standardized test deployments. I think one of the big issues in past is every school's handling a little bit different, a little bit hodgepodgey. Now it's a really clean deployment system across all schools. And last but not least, it's just that we're just getting started. And I would kind of want a preview of some of the stuff that we'll be talking about as the year goes on. So I talked about it briefly before, but we're super excited to do the digital citizenship deployment of that curriculum with the LMS. If you look up that photo at the top, that's the elementary LMS. They're learning how to use iMovie on their new MacBooks, because they're also going to become a media center for their schools. And they are library media specialists. They're really excited about getting more media out there in their schools. I know we're excited because some point they'll be sending some really cool media to Allison Pratt for the newsletters. And so the community can know all that really, really amazing stuff that we do. As the year goes on later, I can't wait. I'm so excited to talk about capital projects and fiber lines and all that other good stuff. So that's something I started to work with Joe on, and I'm going to be meeting with the town. I think we have some opportunities coming up in the next few years to focus on some town disaster safety stuff. So we can kind of kill two birds with one stone, where we can not only bolster our school data infrastructure, but also the town safety infrastructure at the same time. The other thing I kind of hinted at with that computer lab is I am helping facilitate, and I mean, I'm doing a very small part. We have amazing teachers at the high school giving their blood, sweat, and tears. And I know Dane didn't bring it up, but we are looking to bring back media production at RHS. And I think this is the year the stars are aligned. So we're really excited to work with the high school on that, and to work with the wonderful curriculum department in figuring out how to move forward with the future comprehensive career and technology paths that we would like to implement at the high school. Other than that, I think I did good for time, and it's questions if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
I'm sure we do have some questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who would like to start us out with questions?
Oh, no.
Sean?
Sean. See, you're so good. You know how to.
By the way, that was awesome.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Oh, thank you.
I have one really easy,
Uh-oh.
that camera,
Yes.
can you flip it so it's not backwards? It looks like a bad TikTok video.
Oh, up here, it's on the
Yeah.
people watching at home. It's not. It's
Can you-
this is the jerry riggedness of today. Hopefully, after this, all this will
How
be.
much should we spend on
This is
it?
it's the Zoom part hasn't been installed yet,
Okay, you
and
got
this is the amazingness of John Mansfield, who is working on I won't say bubblegum and duct tape, but we're
No, this is awesome because we can bring in people remotely and it's.
it is it's like 90% there. We have one more little thing, and then it's going to be
That's what
perfect.
you have.
Yes,
That, okay.
yes, just that
That's the
one.
thing.
Thank you for making me fully inadequate. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Let me first apologize to my colleague.
Just kidding.
I have a question for you actually about how you engage students now in this process, even as you think about a curriculum. Have you considered assistance or some kind of internship within the school or something like that for kids who are interested in this kind of work?
Absolutely. So one thing, we have a great relationship with the 18 to 22 program. We've taken a lot of interns there and technology program. And of course, the senior internship. We've always taken on interns every year. I will be honest, I don't farm a lot of information from elementary school children, but our kind of farm team are the students who run the morning show at the middle school, because those are the really tech savvy kids. They really tell us like what the kids want, how they're using it, how they use the technology. Be honest, the conversations with them really focused on which Chromebook to pick for the middle school. But it is, yeah. Would I like to do that more? Absolutely. Just I need more boots on the ground time, but it is something I definitely do consider, especially at the elementary level. I really want to get in there. I will say I've been getting wonderful feedback from the LMS people in the schools because they're boots on the ground every day, and they're telling me exactly what the kids need. It was those types of conversation that led us to get the Wii video for the high school level and the Wixie for the elementary level. Those are the types of services, but no, absolutely something I do want to increase with.
Ms. Flogel, if I may just jump in here, I know that we do solicit feedback from our secondary students in particular when it comes to course development. So for example, a media production class or those types of courses, whether or not we can create them, but whether or not kids are interested in them is an important part of it, a part of the process, let's just say. And so that is where you might see our secondary students more engaged into what we're offering curriculum wise.
Yeah, that's great. I was thinking more along the lines of coding and development, and things like, and even networking is a huge opportunity for our kids. From a career projection.
It's something that I've had many meetings with Steve Anton. He's heads up that kind of computer programming, and with Mike Murphy, the head of the robotics, because I do think network technology is another avenue that is not like people aren't getting prepared for it, and there's so much need, and it's, there's so many great job opportunities for our students out there for something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
John. Quick redirect, networking's going nowhere.
Yeah.
The statute of limitations is up, and Darien High School no longer uses a DEC PDP 11 But I will say that the kids that are hacking your network are the ones you want to list in this stuff.
Yes,
They have
exactly.
the
Yeah.
aptitude, They know where the bodies are buried.
Yes.
And they can help you. So look for those kids that are maybe on the outside looking in and bring them into the fold and they can help.
Oh, no comment, but we've definitely, we've talked to with students before and we've enrolled
As
in
I
their
said, the
help.
statute of limitations is up.
Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry. Go ahead. Federal grants.
Mhm.
This year you didn't need them for the budget. I would go about.
So
applying for those grants?
I've applied for two major ones. One is for a full reimbursement of all the Chromebooks we purchased, which would be close to about $500,000. The response I got from our liaison for the federal grants, who's been wonderful, she gets us a lot of other grants, was kind of a shoulder shrug. She's like, you might get it, you might not. You might get all of it. You might get zero. You might get $10,000. You might get $5. You might get $300,000. She's like, I have no idea. The other one, which is more predictable, is our E-rate federal grant reimbursement. That did go through. We're probably going to be getting a little less than $50,000 from that grant. When that does go into my technology budget, we're probably going to use it for certain digital services. But right now, those are the only two that I was allowed to apply for where I said I have a chance of getting stuff. Right now, demographics, certain things, I applied for everything I could, but those are the two major ones, was the Chromebook purchase reimbursement. And that was like a leftover COVID thing, was kind of like last of the gate. And then of course the E-rate reimbursement.
All right, they're not grants that we didn't apply for because we had the money in the budget.
No. And the way those grants work, it depends. And usually half the time we just don't qualify for other reasons. So, but if we do get that money, I'll let you know.
I know you will. Rachel.
So first, I just want to thank you for your enthusiasm, your dedication, your passion, because it definitely translates into all the wonderful things that you're doing for technology and RPS. So thank you so much. So my question kind of piggybacks off of what Liz had asked into robotics, because we had students present to the board and they were wonderful. I think that's a great part of our meetings too, because we really get to see, what's happening in RPS, and our community is involved in that as well. But they shared with the board, about robotics, and I was just wondering about the future budgetary needs of that, because I remember, I think there was like a grant associated, but then that was going to run out.
Yes, so that was the in very good memory. Last year, that was one of my budget asks because of Perkins. So that's a Perkins grant. Perkins is designed to help launch programs in especially high schools. They do stuff at the middle school level too, but it has under the umbrella of, they would say, CTE, career technology education. The problem with Perkins is it's launching funds. It's not funding forever. So they'll support you for the first 5 or so years. And then as every year goes by, you get less and less money, because the goal is to have the school come up with a budget to then support it. I believe we still have about 2-ish more years of Perkins left with the robotics, but in that kind of blue chunk you saw, that's where we're going to start. Like this year, I bought some stuff for the business department, because they're way done with Perkins. So anything that they need, they can either do through like an REF grant or just hope that we can find the money somewhere, because it's just Perkins is done giving that program money. It's now existed long enough. But now that we have the money in our budget, I can meet with the business department and say, hey, what do you guys need? What can I do for you? And then I can upgrade some of their software and their computers. And I'll be doing the exact same thing with the both the computer science program and of course the robotics product design. Yeah, because we do not want that to suffer in any sense. It's become a complete feather in our hat. It's been wonderful. Just we can't keep the kids out of it. They want it so bad.
Dr. DeSantis, if I can just add to Mr. Ruggieri's question. So we have 2 priorities this year, excuse me, in curriculum. One is around exploring the middle school essentials, and you're going to hear more about why that's important, Ms. Ruggieri, and a lot of that is coming from a need at the middle school to look at other options for kids, some of which may result in technology area. And the other, as you heard Dr. DeSantis mention briefly, is around CTE. So when you're asking about a budget ask, we've been asking for most of our financial support around actual things with respect to technology. But that's still necessary, obviously, but the shift or the add is going to be around the curriculum programs that are supported, yes, by the technology. So there's the two pieces there. And the two that I mentioned, I know that we're going to be learning a great deal about over the course of the year.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. DeSantis.
Next up, we have the teacher PD professional growth and evaluation plan, first read.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. I will begin. So in the spring, Corey and I were pleased to bring before the Board of Education revisions to the administrator evaluation plan. And now we're pleased to bring some slight revisions to the teacher professional growth and evaluation plan. So all revisions to the plans require Board of Ed approval. And the last time the board made any adoption to our plan was in June 2005. So since that time, there have been some statutory changes, as well as some revisions to our practice that need to be encompassed into our plan. Corey and I did meet with our professional development and evaluation committee. We have been informed that in the spring of 2023, the state will be giving all districts revised guidelines for both educator evaluation systems, which we do not know what that will encompass yet. So we felt that as in our policies, we felt it was important that our current plan at least revise our current practice. So what you will see today is a first read for what we characterize as pretty much clerical edits to just reflect that current practice. Two highlights. We're not going to go through each one unless the board would like to have that happen. But characteristics that were revised, you'll see through the strikeouts and new addition language. One of the primary statutory changes was the reduction in the one single data test score. So evaluation used to be based upon, say, a single score like the CMTs or the ESPA, or the assessment that's currently in place, versus now saying it's going to be on assessments that are multiple measures over time. So you'll see strikeouts where it says state test score. Another thing was, although it doesn't change our practice, was clarifying terminology. We use the term scheduled and unscheduled observations, and the state uses the words formal and informal. So we just wanted to clarify those processes as well. So those were some of the significant just edits and clerical edits that we were making in the current proposal. Because we do believe that there'll be substantive edits that will be done in the spring. So you will see us again, but we wanted, as I said, to make sure that our current plan was most up to date to our current practice.
So we reviewed this with the entire PDEC committee, and really what we needed to do before we could be ready for addressing what the state brings us in the spring, which we haven't seen any piece of it yet, is really bringing practice to the paper. So we're just updating in paper what we've been doing in practice. So the committee there were no surprises as we went through the edits. You will see crossouts and parentheses on the document, and that shows any changes that were made in response to some feedback that we got.
Are there any questions for Corey or I?
Questions from anyone? Do notice the add of a bunch of NEAR representatives to the list at the beginning. While they were mentioned at in the paragraph, in the opening paragraph, I didn't see them listed prior. Is that a change or just an update to?
They've always been part of the committee, yes.
Okay.
It's just it's a new group since it's been so long.
No, I understand. It's a
Over
change of
time, yes,
personnel.
over
yes.
time, yeah.
Yes.
Bargaining unit members were required to be part of it, so they were at that time. But yes, the entire membership was revived.
Questions from anyone else? This will be coming back to us. Is that right?
Yes.
To vote?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, next up is planning for Juneteenth.
Okay. So as my memo described, the state of Connecticut said that starting in the 22-23 school year, that Juneteenth was a national holiday and state and federal holiday, celebrating Independence Day. So what the state tells us is the decision to close public schools is made by each local school district. So if schools are open, then they must hold a suitable educational program in observance of the holiday. So that's the legislation around June 19th. One thing to notice, if you look at our school calendar, currently June 19th is not a school day for us. If we have no snow days. I believe in Ridgefield, we usually do have snow days. For this year, our plan is to create events on those days so that we're not closed, but we do want to put that to the board for discussion.
So up for board discussion is if school is still in session on the 19th of June, does the board want that to be, the schools to be closed that day?
Actually, let me clarify that a little bit, Jonathan, if that's okay. For this year, we already had a set calendar. And so we are, as of today, we are not in school on June 19th. As we know, that will happen. The likelihood of that happening is 0. So it is likely that we will be in school on June 19th. And so if we are in school, because our calendar was already created, we did not go into negotiations with our staff in terms of days, et cetera. So because of that, we expect to be in school on June 19th. As a result of that, for this year, and according to the law, we will be expected to provide a program for students if school is in session. So that's what the board can expect this current year. With respect to the coming years, that will be a board decision if you would like to have the day off on Juneteenth or school in session. So that will come with future calendars, but this current year is already established. I'm hoping that clarified a little bit.
Yes, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Yes.
So what Corey is really sharing, and I think the purpose of us sharing this evening is because we do have a policy later that made some slight changes with respect to Juneteenth. Again, it's just legislative changes. So we just wanted to make sure, or legal changes, we wanted to make sure that we provided the board with an update, because this year we are, again, we had an adopted calendar. School will be in session because the chance of no snow days is 0. And as a result, you can expect to hear more about what we plan for a program for that day, or perhaps even differently. We haven't gotten that far in terms of programming. So you can expect to hear more, but that's really the purpose of us sharing that this evening.
Thank you. Questions or comments? This will probably be more conversations when we look at future year calendars. Okay, thank you. And we do have to look at this current calendar with an edit to language, correct?
Yeah, so that's a very slight edit. We actually just noticed it and wanted to clarify a little bit. We originally had June 16th as a professional learning day. We just wanted to be clear for families that they know that that professional learning day will be the last day of school, meaning if we have a snow day, which we will, that it's not that they're going to have a day off because there's a professional learning day and then come back to school, but that professional learning day will shift. So we didn't want families to look at this calendar and say, wait a minute, the kids aren't going to come to school on that day, but they'll have to come back the following day. So that last day of school, which is PD, will just shift based on however many snow days we get. So that's all that edit, that's all that edit is there for.
The last day of school, there will be a PD day,
For teachers, right?
whenever that happens to be.
Right.
Correct.
Probably not on the 16th.
The day after the last day of school for kids will be a teacher PD day,
Got it.
whatever day that may be.
We just didn't want anyone to think that they were coming to school, or they would be coming to school after that PD day.
Right. Okay, thank you for that.
And then coming back.
That makes it clearer. Thank you. Moving on to the racial show policies.
So good evening, everyone. So the first policy up for discussion this evening is RPS policy 5123 promotion. The last time this policy was revised was in 2011. It is a required policy by CABE. Dr. De Silva led the committee through a discussion on this policy, highlighting its purpose and revision. Dr. De Silva, would you like to add anything at this time?
I will, if that's okay, Rachel. So the reason we felt that this policy was important to bring to the committee is that the current policy really did not, in our opinion, did not reflect best practice when it came to promotion and in retention. So first of all, it's our expectation that all of our students will be promoted from grade to grade. So you might notice in the previous policy, the language said most. Further, it was important that families understood, as do our educators already, that we do expect that there is a range of student performance with any particular grade level, and that our schools are expected to support students along that continuum, whether that's in general education, of course, or special education. But it is our obligation to be sure that we're communicating to families that there is a range and that we're also there to support kids in any of the academic areas, or quite frankly, even on the behavioral side, the social emotional side, if a child is struggling. And that retention is really extraordinary, right? There's plenty of research, which we did not feel that our past policy reflected current research on retention, and that it really should be an extraordinary measure, and that we're giving families, we're communicating with families all along the way, that we're monitoring student progress, that we're reporting student progress, and if a child is struggling, and that we are in a position where retention is a recommendation that families are hearing from us, and it's not a surprise. Also, that retention is not an intervention strategy, right? So we don't want retention to be perceived as an intervention for a child that might not be at a particular level that a parent would expect. Further, what we wanted to do, and through feedback from the policy committee, we wanted to make sure that it was parallel to the retention policy, and that we do come together as principal, teachers, whether it's a psychologist or a guidance counselor, depending upon the level. And the same goes for acceleration. It's very rare in any school district that I've ever been in, and most people have been in, that a child would skip a grade and accelerate. However, in the event that rare event happens, that we would have a committee that's reviewing the child's academic needs and of course their social emotional needs. So to summarize a lot of what I just said, we felt that the policy that we had was not reflective of current research and best practice. Further, we felt that the language needed to be there that spoke about the communication of families, the progress monitoring, and reporting to families in terms of that progress. I think that's it, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Dr. De Silva. Any questions from board members?
Minor suggested edit.
Sure.
Third paragraph, I think grammatically it would be better to say the board generally does not approve.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, can you repeat that?
The board generally does not approve. Just moving the generally.
Oh,
Thank you, Jonathan. Any other recommendations, Liz?
It's not specific to the policy, but something you said as you were introducing it. You said CABE requires this. CABE is a member organization to which we are members. They do not require us to have policies. They recommend them based on legislative consultation. So I just wanted to clarify that for the public, that CABE doesn't require us to have policies. They recommend them based on the legislature, which we then customize for Ridgefield.
So there's actually two lists. When you go in the CABE policy manual, and there's one that they say are required policies, and there's one that's recommended. So
But
that's
CABE is not an organization that voters or taxpayers support, and they cannot require us to do anything. They say they were required based on the legislation that's coming out, to be clear, correct? CABE can't require the Ridgefield Board of Ed to do anything. That's what I'm trying to clarify for the public.
Okay.
Thank
Sure.
you.
No problem. Okay. So this policy will come back for a second read. Next policy is RPS policy 6111, school calendar. The last time this policy was revised was June of 2021. As per the CABE July 2022 update, the legal references to the policy have been updated to reflect Public Act 22-47, an act concerning children's mental health, and Public Act 22-128, an act establishing Juneteenth Independence Day as a legal holiday. So in front of you, you will see the legal references have been updated. One revision that I would recommend is in the first paragraph that we just put the word Ridgefield before Board of Education. And are there any questions or comments on this policy?
Nothing.
Anybody? Okay, cool. So this will come back for a second read as well. Thank you. Next policy. So RPS policy 6171, exceptional children, and RPS policy 6171.1, children with special needs. So policy 6171 was last revised in June of 1994. Policy 6171.1 was last revised in June of 1995. The recommendation as per the CABE audit of 2019 is to replace these dated versions 6171 and 6171.1 with a single new policy. So that single new policy is before you. It's entitled Special Education. Dr. Hanaway took the committee through the discussion on this policy. Dr. Hanaway, is there anything that you'd like to add? It was kind of your night because it was all special education.
The only thing that I would clarify in reading the two current policies with the proposed new one is that you notice a major difference in the reference to the federal law and state statutes, which is part of the new policy. The previous policies were very descriptive in nature and context specific in the time in which they were written, whereas the current proposed policy speaks to our responsibilities to students with disabilities through the IDEA, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it takes the language very close to how it's written within those laws and statutes to ensure that the policy aligns with what our required obligations are within not only programming for students, but identifying them.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions on this new policy? Liz?
Dr. Hanaway, does this change? I'm assuming that in practice, this policy is getting caught up to actual practice, but I'm curious about the financial implications of this policy, the way it's written, in terms of not the non-disabled regular education students paying for their own tuition, but what the impact will be to the budget next year or going forward as a result of transportation, different IEPs for the, I think it's birth to 3, especially where we don't have facilities that do preschool.
Okay. If I think I'm following your question right, so your first statement is that is it accurate assumption that the policy is actually catching up to our practice because our practice is in line with federal and state law, and the policy is basically catching up to federal and state law. I don't believe that the policy as it's written will have budgetary implications in and of itself due to the policy. We have budgetary implications due to students with disabilities that will be due to the nature of the population. I don't see anything in how the policy is designed that would drive that. And we can talk about there's an upcoming preschool policy as well, which if you have a similar question, I can answer that there too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, so Dr. Hanaway did review them for us.
I did not. So the question that came up in the subcommittee was, were there opportunities within the design of the policy? And if I don't capture it exactly as you said it, please correct me. Were there opportunities within the policy in referencing students with learning differences to not necessarily say students with disabilities, but just as I did, just said, Susie says often, students with learning differences, students with exceptionalities. And because so much of this policy is just taking straight legalese, so to speak, there wasn't much opportunity to do that within the policy itself, although it very much is commonplace practice throughout the district, informally and throughout meetings. Correct, right. Thank you. Yep. Amy?
Take yourself off mute.
Be my first time using.
Fourth paragraph, the Board of Education should be Ridgefield Board of Education. Yes, we can put that in there. Thank you.
While we're there, can we take the words "shall be assisted" from the middle and say the Ridgefield Board of Education shall be assisted in filling its legal duties? But I had a hard time following the sentence as written.
Sure. So Jonathan, how
The
should it?
Ridgefield Board of Education shall be assisted in fulfilling its legal duties and responsibilities for providing blah, 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 blah.
Shall be assisted. So just put it in a different
Just bring it
area.
up.
Reversing the.
Up
Yeah.
instead of. I see no problem with that. Any questions, comments?
Another question I had was in current 6171. There is reference to students with extraordinary learning abilities or outstanding talent in the creative arts, the development of which requires programs or services beyond the level of those ordinarily provided.
Yes.
Where does that now?
Oh, I have the
land?
answer to that question because I had the same question. I'm so happy that you
Yeah,
asked
you
that. So in August 22nd, 2022, we did update our policies. We have a new gifted and talented students policy, 6172.1. And it says the term shall include children with extraordinary learning abilities and children with outstanding talent in the creative arts.
Thank you.
I'm happy you asked that. Welcome. I am.
So you can
Because I
bring this one back to
Yes,
second read?
so, policy 6171 will come back for a second read and possible approval. And policy 6171.1 will come back for a second read and to be rescinded. Okay. All right, moving on. So RPS policy 6171.2 preschool special education. As per the Cape audit of 2019, this is a mandated policy lacking. I do want to point out that it might be a policy that is lacking, but not a new program to Ridgefield. And Dr. Hanaway did take the committee through the discussion of this policy. Dr. Hanaway, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just would like to make the distinction is that the title of the policy is preschool special education, not just preschool. Our preschool program is a program for students with learning disabilities in which we invite the participation of students who may not require IEP services. We often get the question around, tell us about your preschool, and with the insinuation that we have a universal preschool program, and if not to service 3 to 5 year olds with special needs, we may not have a preschool in district. So just to clarify that point. But to Rachel's point before, this is not new in terms of the program or how it's designed. This is again, a policy that's catching up to our practice.
Questions on this policy? Amy? Same thing, just Ridgefield Board, first sentence. Yes, thank you, Amy. The first sentence, the Ridgefield Board of Education. Any other questions, comments? Okay, great. So this can come back for a second read. Next one, RPS policy 6172, alternative education programs. As per the Cape audit of 2019, this is also a mandated policy lacking. If you take a look, again, this might be a new policy, but again, not a new program to Ridgefield. Dr. Hanaway also took the committee through the discussion of this policy.
A few things I would note is that while I'm presenting this policy, this is not a special education program. Our alternative high school is really an extension of Ridgefield High School and open to students who may or may not have special needs and general education. So it's not a special education program. We do collaborate between my office, Corey's office, and the high school to support it. This policy does capture that what we're following right now with regards to the program in terms of we have a process for students who are interested to learn more about it, and also what the criteria is for enter and exit within the program. I will note for newer board members and reminding board members who were there, we did have a presentation to the board I believe it was last fall, maybe into early winter, of our alternative high school and what the designer program was at that point and the goals of the program. I'd be happy to reshare that again if it's helpful. We have spent time to learn about programs in other districts. There is language here that that we're not including, or I'm sorry, that in some districts, they collaborate across districts to create alternative programming. It's not something that we're not open to doing, but as far as my understanding before me, and while I've been here, it hasn't, the opportunity hasn't come up that has seemed to work for us, although we do collaborate with other districts.
Anything from board members? Go ahead, Amy.
That and Ken is channeling the Oxford commas.
Oh, sure. Where?
So yeah, Ridgefield Board of Ed and third paragraph, the social, emotional, behavioral, comma.
So
and
third paragraph,
academic needs.
social, emotional, behavioral. Okay, after behavioral. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oxford comma. Okay, great. So that'll come back for a second read. Thank you. Okay, and last policy for this evening, RPS policy 6173, homebound hospital instruction. This policy was last revised of June 1995. The recommendation as per the CABE audit of 2019 was to consider a newer CABE version, which is compliant with regulatory changes. Dr. Hanaway also took the committee through the discussion on this policy.
So just to clarify, this is not homeschooling. This is for students who are medically unable or medically, either physically, medically, or due to mental health issues, unable to attend school and are either home or in the hospital. The student's been out. Once they were out for 10 school days, then we initiate what's called homebound instruction or hospitalized instruction. And there are very, very clear steps within state regulations and in how we have to work with families to get documentation to qualify a student's eligibility for this type of instruction, as well as then the provision of it. And then in addition, for those students who happen to also have a disability, how we implement the services within their IEP within the context of homebound or hospitalized instruction. We do typically hire, just for as an FYI, we do typically hire our own homebound tutors through my office, and we work very, very closely with most home students on homebound or hospitalized instruction. Not all, but most are at the middle or high school level. So we work really closely with our school counselors who coordinate between the tutors and the classes and the students and the family. So again, this is a policy that is catching up to what our current practice is.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Sean?
Amy won't say it, so I will. The last paragraph,
Okay,
Ridgefield Board of Education.
yeah, you got it.
Is this a new policy or a replacement policy?
So this is replacing. So we had an old 6173. It was 2 sentences long.
Okay.
So. Is there another one? It's okay. It probably won't be reviewed for another 10 years, so I might as well say it now, because that's what happens with these policies. Go ahead, it's okay.
Just wondering if in the second paragraph, first sentence, it was medically complex. Not sure we need the comma after that.
Because it's not a list.
Yeah, it's just something and.
Okay. All right, great. So that'll come back for a second read. Thank you so much with the recommendations of today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Okay.
Or you can put the comma in front of two. And then keep that comma.
Okay.
Either way.
Thank you.
I like that more. Okay, we can move on now to the items of information, starting with enrollment.
Okay, thank you. So the September monthly report before you is the first report since school has started. I do want to remind all Board of Education members that our official numbers for the 22-23 school year will be based upon October 1st, which is this upcoming weekend. And so you will receive future information about that. So as of note, you'll see that there is a slight decline from August numbers, but an increase over our projections for this year. This is pretty much a typical pattern in that there will be students that have not unregistered, should I say, from our power school system, but then do not report. That cleanup and data of who's not here continues and will be in that October 1 number. What you will see, the largest difference is our pre-K numbers, and that is a primary driver of the registration of our typical peers. As Dr. Haney was saying, in our preschool program, we do have typical peers that attend, as well as a few students that moved into the district and students that were coming out of the Birth to 3 program, which happens throughout the year. So you'll see that our current registration of 4,597 students is 81 students over projections. One other note, I know that Sean, last Board of Education meeting in August, asked about trends as it related to outplacement. So we ended the year last year with 48 students, and we now currently have 47. So we'll certainly watch that trend, but for one student, we don't have a trend yet. Just wanted to make sure that we were addressing that question.
Karen, can I add on to that?
Of course.
So in this outplaced number, I just wanted to clarify that this mostly includes students with IEPs, but does also include students who may attend a technical high school or attend a magnet or charter high school. So as of right now, 32 of this 47 are students with IEPs. And I have the trend of if there was questions, because we do present in January at our budget what our student outplacement number looks like, and you'll see a difference between that and what the enrollment report looks like. If you look January to January and you say, what is that difference? It's students in the technical high schools or charter or magnet.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, staffing report.
Okay. So as you'll see that we're continuing to hire. So there's been some changes since the August 18th report last month. So I will answer any questions about any changes that are in that report if anybody has any.
Any questions? Thank you. Okay, moving on, we can go to the correspondence report.
Okay.
Well, first public comment if there is any.
Yeah, I don't think there's any public comment this evening. Nope. So our correspondence report, we have received one email since our last Board of Education meeting. One email shared feedback on our agenda this evening and advocacy for Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now to convene an executive session, do I have a motion?
Sure. I move that the Board of Education convene an executive session for the purpose of discussion of transportation contract negotiations, inviting the superintendent, Susie De Silva, the assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction, Corey Gillette, the assistant superintendent of special services, Elizabeth Hanaway, the director of personnel, Karen Doing, the director of finance, Jill Brown, the facilities manager, Joe Moritz, and the transportation manager, Billy Gramaggio.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Amy? All those in favor?